Good morning, Senate Agriculture back in business. We're gonna have the honor of having ANR in the room. We haven't caught up with them for a long time and would like to have a long ranging discussion with them as far as anything that we should be looking for in the second half of this year. The end of the year will come quick and we'll make sure that we get ahead of anything that we should be aware of. And there's been a lot of talks going on about the permit processes, the stakeholder groups and all of that. Everything's on the table to be discussed. We just really just would like to be made aware of anything that we should. Secretary, I will apologize to you. You sent me a note last night and I should have responded to it and I went to do it 14 times and I did not. And so it might seem a little nefarious of what it at, but it just a catch up for us.
Okay.
For the second half of the year. And if there's things that we don't know, that we should know, or things that we ask that you don't know, we're certainly all going to be here for a little bit longer. But we just want to catch up before the end of the season.
Okay.
And any things that we should be aware of, anything. So welcome. The floor is yours.
All right. I'm happy to take the chair for just a minute or two, but then presume most of your questions may be best put to my colleague Misty here. Good morning. For the record, I'm Julie Moore. I'm the Secretary of Natural Resources, and I'm joined by Misty Cinzagalli, who's the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation, as well as Brian Redman, who heads our Drinking Water and Groundwater Protection Division within the Department of Environmental Conservation. And I hope that between the three of us, we'll be able to answer any questions you may have. To the extent we aren't able, we're happy to follow back up. So I believe this is the first time I've been in the committee this year. So it's a pleasure to join you. I think probably the areas of the intersection that I expect we may want to talk about today is the work around standing up a CAFO program.
Yes.
That ANR is engaged in. Misty has been participating in each of the stakeholder meetings and so can provide an update on where that work stands. We anticipate having a report by the end of this month that both summarizes the input we've received from stakeholders, and then we're going to write sort of a wrap around to it to start to lay out our vision for how we will actually use the recommendations from the stakeholders as we continue the work to build out the program. I know there have also been questions around on-farm accessory businesses and some of the concerns around what wastewater disposal in particular associated with those. And so asked Brian to join this morning with the thought that he could help answer questions in that space. And if there are other topics you'd like us to try to speak to,
anything you would want to talk about. We did have a great discussion, actually a tutorial really, because that's what they are, with Ms. Garrison about the tile drains. And so if anything with that, I know that there is some ongoing litigation which we got to stay away from about that, but any topic. But yes, most of this is going to center around the CAFO permitting and waters and anything else. If there's anything else that you need from us that we need to be paying attention to, that's really what we want to do. We just want to make sure that we're ahead of the game. But yeah, a lot of the discussions that you've laid out, Secretary, would be very, very helpful for us.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'll turn things over to Misty and let her start by giving just an update on the CAFO stakeholder process, and we can see where the conversation takes us.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. So thank you again for having me. For the record, Misty Cinzagalli, Commissioner, Department of Environmental Conservation. So I have been fortunate and lucky enough to sit in on all of the stakeholder groups that we led starting back in last summer. We were tasked with, through Act 67, bringing on a consultant to mediate or to facilitate a stakeholder group with farmers and other stakeholders, which also involve environmental groups and agencies that are involved. And we brought on a wonderful consultant, CBI, who came in, and we probably over the course of 3 to 4 months held meetings probably every couple weeks, probably at length, 2 to 3 hours each meeting in person mainly. Went through a number of topics and conversations with the facilitation of CBI. I looked at the process after it was all done and thought it was wildly successful. I will be 100% honest. Going into it, I will actually quote one of the farmers who at the last meeting said, if you had said to me that I would come into this process and want to sit in the same room as the environmental groups, I would have said you were crazy. And here we are at the end of the process. We crafted and created a recommendation. The farmers and the environmental groups, not involved the agency. This was outside of our stakeholder group. The agencies were talked to and brought in, but it was really something that was their effort, and they did it. And by the end of the stakeholder group, and I think you'll see this potentially when you're talking about continuing on a stakeholder group, or that they would like to co-chair now moving forward. They would like the environmental group and farmers would like to co-chair the group moving forward to continue the conversations and to say we started the conversations because we had to, and now we want to move forward because we want to. And so that to me showed the success of the group. And also coming out of the group, the report will show that there is a number of recommendations, including timelines that came out. We are going to do our best to use it as a roadmap, understanding that we have the authority to do certain things and don't have the authority to do other things, and understand that we are tied to creating and standing up for this CAFO program, moving it forward, making sure that we can move forward a program that takes into account timelines, and holding people accountable, and also understanding that change takes time. And so using that to say that we will work with the farming community and farmers as this program is stood up and implemented to ensure that they understand what is required of them. We understand our roles as agencies between the Agency of Ag and our agency, and that we've worked together to make sure that the resources, technical assistance, and others that we can provide are provided, and that it is something that going into the future can be long lasting no matter who is here. So in terms of where we are, I think with the stakeholder report coming out this month, and then kind of putting our heads down and really making sure that we are following the timelines that we're asked to follow and standing up the program, doing rulemaking. I'm confident in the team that Abby Paycheck leads. It's our cable program manager. It's now at 5 people. They have a lot of work to do. They know that. We know that we will continue to work hard to do these things, while at the same time acknowledging the outcomes that were put in the report that will be presented, and making sure that folks are clearly communicated with as we move forward, and that folks are brought in throughout the process so that we can all make sure, whether it be agencies, Agency of Ag, and in our DC, as well as the farming community and environmental groups, that we are all continuing to communicate so that nothing can prevent this.
So some very big words in there, not big in vocabulary, but some big words as far as important ones: trust and communication.
Yeah.
And moving forward and willing to collaborate. It doesn't sound it doesn't sound like a lot of rulemaking was made to where it changed much as far as when everything left here last year with the CAFO permit process. It sounds like everybody's still feeling secure where they're at as far as that. It's all able to be done. Everybody's in that way.
Yes. So we we took the initiative or what we were instructed to do and are moving forward. So we are not looking to change what we are required to do or has said we're going to do, which is to stand up our CAFO program and to move through the whole thinking. So
I think that the angst of when it left here was that, oh my God, it's going to change a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of work that's got done, and these poor farmers are going to get hosed a little bit. It doesn't sound like it worked out that way.
I don't think so. I think that through the communication and I do see the requirement of the stakeholder group in Act 67 of the piece of it, that it put us all at the table and kind of said, we're all going to hear, we're going to talk through things, we're going to hear what each other has to say, and we're going to ensure that while we may not be able to implement or do everything that is outlined in the recommendations, we're having the conversation. And we will continue the conversation between the agencies and farmers. And I would say pulling that in would also involve not only our CAFO program, but our enforcement folks. So ensuring that our folks are all understanding of what we are doing moving forward. We're communicating not only across agencies, but we have our own department, which is incredibly important, which is something that continue to be incredibly proud of my folks, is that we acknowledge that there are things internally that we need to work on, and we are doing our best to move forward, saying that there are things in the past that we cannot change, but there are things that moving forward we can. And so we are actively working together within our department with the Agency of Ag to ensure that communication wise we are on the same page about things, which is incredibly important for the farmers.
And I maybe add one thing there, Senator Ingles, which is just there is a recognition that will need to be some improvements to barnyard practices to meet the Clean Water Act standards that are they don't overlap entirely with what has been required under the medium farm and large farm permits. And so effort in collaboration with the Agency of Agriculture to make sure that going forward, as they are working with farms to design practices intended to meet the LFO or MFO standard, that they also have eyes on what it takes to meet a Clean Water Act standard. Probably the best example of a fairly low cost one is the Clean Water Act requires there to be some ability to measure the amount of freeboard that remains in a manure pit. So between the surface elevation and when it would start to overflow. In general, the Agency of Agriculture has not been requiring farmers to install those measuring devices. Clean Water Act permit would also require them to do record keeping. So essentially go out and make a visual inspection on a regular basis. So setting farmers up for success so that the systems that are built on farms meet the intentions of the medium and large farm permit, but also are fully situated to do double duty and meeting Clean Water Act obligations should the farmer come under a CAFO permit. So there's some true up that needs to happen. That example is a pretty low cost example. It's mostly a paperwork exercise. There are some other instances where there may be additional costs. We're working to try to understand where those gaps exist, and then adjust our practices going forward to make sure that farmers are getting one set of design recommendations that are universally sort of meet the moment.
So Richard, you have something?
Yeah, Misty,
Yeah.
you said that there, some changes that needed to be made, and you identified that. Can you give some examples of what they are? And together, not obviously not all of them, if there are a significant number, but some of the high level things that you're looking to do.
Sure. So one of the things that we have heard, and folks probably is that when Agency of Ag is out on farm or is doing an inspection and potentially sees a discharge, that they do a referral to our enforcement folks, to TDC. And there have been a number of referrals in the past that and folks have said that they're unsure of what has happened with those referrals. Where are those referrals? Where that, the communication piece, let's say, wasn't there to identify what happened this result. So we take that and we understand that we can do a better job together communicating. Okay, if you are referring something to us, we want to make sure that one, we follow up in a timely manner, and that two, we communicate with our partners as to what is going on, and keeping that communication open so that we understand what next steps may be. Is it something that we will keep with us, or is it something that potentially goes back to the agency of ag? To kind of work with the farm. So that to me is something that is really important, because it is not only outward facing with the farming community to say, you know, we're working together as agencies. We want to make sure that we are clear in our communication with you and understanding what next steps may be, but also together as agencies to have that communication internally, so that there isn't a who's doing what and when piece, which I think is, you know, what we heard from folks in our stakeholder groups, as well as in other conversations I've had, is we want to see the agencies work together. We want to see the communication and the collaboration between the agencies work. We want to trust that we're all working in the best interest of Vermonters, and that we're all upholding the rules and regulations that we need to be, but in a way that we are collaboratively together moving forward. And so that has been something that we are looking at. We are got a new chief enforcement officer. We've got folks working across programs and across the agencies to ensure that we meet on a regular basis, we share the information that we can, and that moving forward, that those questions are answered.
That makes me feel good, because that's one of the things that we have heard, is that that you should, you know, be a tool in helping you know, our farmers, and this committee in particular is looking out for the farmers and their best interest, kind of always. And there has been, you know, whether intentional or not, I don't, you know, I'm not here to cast blame, dispersions. That has not always been the case. And so if we're moving forward to try to make us helpful, then that makes me feel good.
Clarity and certainty, right?
Yeah.
So that's what people are looking for, internally and external with the farmers. They want to know what they have to do and what happens, you know, depending on what that action is. And that to us is the most important piece, is making sure that they have that clarity, they have that certainty, and as much transparency as possible, so that they know moving into something, if I go down this path, this is what will happen. If I go down this path, this is what's going to happen. There's not the gray, which I think has caused a lot of things in the past.
So with respect to the stakeholder groups, can you kind of enumerate who was in those groups or that group?
Sure. So we had, I think, selected there, we had gone kind of cast a wide net of farmers, larger farmers throughout the state. I would say probably a good 12, at least 12 to 15 farmers that were in that group.
So individual farmers
Yeah,
or
individual farmers
groups
and
that represent them?
individual farmers, and
All farmers all the way up to large farmers?
we had some small farms, medium farms, and a lot of large farms within that. So, and we would also say that we had the environmental groups were also part of that. Also part of the conversation. They were brought in as part of the stakeholder groups. So, and then our agencies were also part of that.
So which environmental groups?
So we had DLF. There's. Oh, here. So I can actually you can. So we had members of. I can actually read that. So NRCS. We had some technical service providers. Jonathan Chamberlain, Ricky Cole, the UVM Extension folks, Vermont Natural Resource Council, Conservation Law Foundation, Lake Champlain Committee, Farm Bureau, and then a number of, actually probably more than 12, close to 20 farmers in there. So, and then a good number of AAFM as well as DEC folks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this can all be, we've got the whole stakeholder group that will be in appendix to, our report as well.
Okay, thanks.
And the hope is, I think, going forward, that some of the, that more farmers are brought in. You know, this is representative of what we thought, you know, when we were told brought farmers in, but we know this doesn't include everyone. So it really will be, important for, all of us to AAFM and DEC, ANR to be out talking with as many farmers as possible as we roll these out, because this was a, intentional group, but certainly not everybody.
The more farmers, the better.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
So I've had this discussion with secretary as well. Your customer service has not always been admirable, I would say. We've heard from the farmers that come in, plus from other divisions, that when your folks come out, that they're, especially the farmers, they say for them, the day before, the day of, it is stressful. It is because the person coming often it's like, what are you doing here? And they're more accusing and put them in a spot rather than, hey, do you know what's going on here? We need to get this fixed. Us, we work for our people. And it doesn't mean that I can go sit there and go, I make your paycheck type of attitude, but to have that concern that I am here I am here to enforce, but I'm here to work with you. And whatever I can do to facilitate that. Often or not, what we hear is it comes back is, here's what you need to do, get it done, and find an engineer when the technician or whoever's coming out could easily say, you know, if you simply do this and that, you could have this problem solved. And when I come back, or if I send enforcement back, and I did see a good example of that at a farm that I went to. Were having a small issue. He called me, we fixed it. The guy came back and it was very good. But a lot of times we do not hear that. And we'll come and go. That's what we hear. That's what we hear from your people. You guys will come and go. We're here, and we don't really listen. It's like, well, Miss Secretary, you are the boss. If anybody that better be listened to is you. And if you get enough people saying you're not happy with customer service, I would hope to say, I don't care if you've been here for 20 years. These people do help make our paychecks. They are part of Vermont. Very few people actually want to destroy Vermont. You do have a few out there, but most of them want to know if I'm doing wrong, give me time to fix it.
Yes.
And please do not be accusing, you know, that you're blatantly damaging our waterways. An overflowing manure pit when we had excessive rain. And it's like, you've got a concerned individual that don't have to give their name and they can complain. He's like, well, it could be the person's been complaining I put mud down the road and they want to try to get you back to me. As long as you're working with, and we get a report, if they were firm, but understanding.
Yes.
I think that's what this committee would like to hear. I know that's what personally I'd like to hear. And that, not that, hey, I'm here to just lay down the law. I'm not here to work with you. And we've heard that in many areas of A&R, and it's disheartening because you're good people. But some of the reports we get back, and some can be just somebody angry, but I know some of these other people that's just like, no, you're given an awful hard time and not getting any relief from the agency of saying, what can we do to work with you? Not, here's only guidelines and this is what you got to do.
And I think that is, when you step back, you know, we are all public servants first and foremost. So at the end of the day, we are here to, I think we are educators and regulators. So I will say that. And I also think that working with folks, across all of our programs, across all of our divisions, especially in DEC, that there is a component of education and to me, being able to explain, you know, we have rules, we have regulations, that we have to follow. So first and foremost, that is our job as a regulator, but also to educate folks potentially before we go out, when we go out, to have those conversations about how we can, what is, at the end of the day, what is our goal and how do we get there? And we really do, enforcement is not like where we go first. We really want to work with folks to ensure compliance and to work with through the process. That's not always easy to do. There is always room for improvement in terms of customer service and what we do. I have full faith that the team, our team, at the end of the day, is doing the best job that they can, and that there are conversations out there that are happening that you can always do better at. I'm not going to say that every situation is perfect, but I do think that educating folks and having them understand what we are trying to do can take away some of that.
I agree with you 100%,
and-
but it's the delivery. It really is the delivery and understanding that, and look, what I'm telling you right now could cost you tens of thousands of dollars to fix.
Mhm.
And the agency, here's our rules and we'd like to have this done tomorrow. And you're talking to a struggling young farmer that now you just have given him a blow and say, well, we're going to try to help you find an agency to help you with this. But the stress you just put on that person that already milk prices are down, fertilizer prices are up, grain prices are up. Now I got the state that I love so dearly that I have now realizing I have an issue that I didn't realize I had, and they start putting pressure on me is traumatic to the farmer, is traumatic to the homeowner, it's traumatic to every. And yes, your enforcement, I'm here to protect Vermont. There's got to be an equal balance, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. We are going to work with you. If you don't try to work toward it, then we're going to start getting aggressive. I've heard you've worked with some, but others I've seen just the opposite. And I just want to make you clear to all of you that we hear this in the field. And it's something that as state employees, we need to do better to say, I'm here to do what I have to do, but I'm going to work with you a little bit. And if you don't comply, then it's going to get bad. But I want to help. I don't want to leave. And I know I'm making this stressful because often or not, you don't get that. It's just going to cost you $10,000 to fix this. Get it done. And it's not a good place to be in. It just adds more stress to somebody that's already in a stressful spot.
Well, thank you. And we always welcome the conversation, and we'll continue to always welcome the conversation, and hope that you all, as well as folks that are working with us, can continue to come forward and have those conversations and work with us. We would love that. So thank you. We appreciate it. All right.
Any more about the clean water part? Before we switch gears a little bit? I don't think so. Everybody's comfortable?
We can always come back.
Okay.
So,
So another thing that we've been trying to do, and we're making grounds of it as well. And I think that we're more aligned with you folks than maybe maybe other people in this building. Is our on-farm accessory. And I just want to kind of be very clear about what we're trying to get to. And we've all had parts of it. Senator Major's got people in this area, but we've all had parts of it. We're just trying to get maybe to the next half a step as far as to where our on-farm accessories could be without getting a full exemption on everything that they want to do. Case in point would be the Senator Major's got a farm that has dinners, and they do have a little stage that they use, and maybe it's more of a stage than it is than it is a hay storage building. But the fact to make, I guess there's all kinds of different scenarios that we can get to. We just need one little bit more where we would feel happy about it. And I don't think that the rub is coming from you folks. I think it's coming from other folks within the building that see it as a lot more, probably a lot like what, when parties fight. They always think that, well, if I give a little bit here, then the next time it comes around, they're gonna pick something else. They're gonna go to something else, and I'm gonna have to give up more. And that's not what we're trying to get to, but I understand the fight of where it is. So, I don't know that if I properly explained enough to where you folks could weigh in on it, but, committee, is there anything else that you want to add to that?
I mean, I think you did a good job. We just have some farmers that, I think someone used the, earlier in another testimony, a barn that they happen to have weddings in. Is it mostly used as a barn? Yes, but they have a couple of weddings in it. Is that really an issue at that point? And to Senator Ingles, they have it. You could see it's a stage, but they do use it for hay and things of that nature. So those types of things where, our farms are decreasing as we speak. And so they're trying to make a little money on the side to kind of sustain themselves. And I think if we can help them do that, I think I don't, see a huge issue with it.
I would just say, we hear you, and it very much, as you indicated, Senator Ingalls, it's sort of everyone's its own special snowflake with a different set of circumstances. And so part of what our conversations have been internally is places where I think we can provide a fairly modest level of regulatory relief, also some ideas about technical assistance Brian can talk to you about, but just trying to brainstorm and get at what some of those opportunities may be. I don't know if we're sort of at the right point in the session for some of these conversations.
Right.
Also happy to flesh out ideas if there are things that sort of feel like are aligned with your vision, and bring back more complete suggestions over the summer and into the fall. But I think Brian can speak to several different scenarios that we've observed,
We're open to that.
and
Very
some
much
ideas we had.
And can I say that Secretary Moore used the snowflake analogy and being a graduate of the University of Buffalo is very apropos.
Do you want to bring it, Brian? And
Yeah, thank you.
I like the Buffalo shout out.
Of course.
Thank you.
Whenever there's any Buffalo connection, we have to give a shout out.
Celebrate.
Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Brian Redmond, I'm the Director for the Drinking Water and Groundwater Protection Division in DEC. So to give you a little bit of a scope of the work that I oversee in DEC, kind of think of it as a left and a right hand. On one hand, I have our public drinking water systems and the regulatory oversight of them across the state, 1,400 public drinking water systems in the state of Vermont, ranging from very small scale to the city of Rome. On the other hand, and I think more germane to the discussion today, is our on-site wastewater, our groundwater discharge part of our program. So Chapter 1 of the Environmental Protection Rule for wastewater system and potable water supply rules. This is where this interface usually happens on accessory on-farm businesses. So this is the subsurface wastewater disposal. Wastewater systems less than 6,500 gallons, large capacity septic systems. We have a separate program, which I'll describe shortly, and the permitting of the potable drinking water system. So the non-public side of the equation. Two other groundwater discharge programs under the purview is our indirect discharge. Those are our large capacity septic systems. Think Vermont ski areas often have these. Village scale municipal wastewater infrastructure is trending in this direction, permitted under this program. The other big piece of the indirect discharge program is the land application of non-sewage waste. So think of your large dairy processors and the land application of the non-sewage waste across the state. So that's kind of that was the program. And then finally, we have the underground injection control program, which is authorized under the Safe Drinking Water Act, actually. But it's really the subsurface disposal of waste that is it's more has potentially chemical constituents, groundwater protection becomes a really focal point of the UIC program. Secretary Moore indicated, at time of session, I've got two ideas and appreciate the offer, and the openness to hear them, related to this topic. The first, on the accessory on-farm, we've had a number of these come through the program. And I think in general, it's a great thing for the state, supporting our working land, supporting our farmers, transition in the agricultural economy, the ability to make money in a different way. And that's a great thing. So we do want to be there to support it. We have had several instances where some of them have run headfirst into our regulatory programs. And to your point, Senator Heffernan, we have in these cases really done a lot of significant outreach to try to help provide the options for these businesses to help them navigate the regulations, typically in consultation with their consulting engineer or their licensed designer. The idea and some of the observations that I've had is there seems to be a disconnect when a project comes through for initial permitting to what actually ends up happening on the property. And I've been in consultation with Agency of Agriculture and this idea of circuit rider, somebody to come and support this transition and help navigate the requirements. Because what we're seeing is something comes in for permitting one way, and then the business or the operation changes or expands and they need permitting a different way. So they're starting back at fresh. So some sort of pre-consultation, pre-permitting consultation to help people get on the right foot early on in the process. Within our rules now, two things. We have successfully permitted some on-farm accessory businesses. One that I love to go to. It's a great restaurant in Braintree. And they've come through the process, we've designed and permitted a system at that facility that allows them to function, a wonderful restaurant on the weekends. Our regulations also provide flexibility on special events under those permits. So special events 12 times a year are exempt under our rules for those facilities. So that's recognition that there may be overloading of the wastewater system. Recognition of the water supply, but that short duration of that event, we've actually carved out an exception for that to occur. So that's a flexibility, that's a nice option that is included in our current regulations. There's also an exemption, it's 28 days. I may need to double check that around wedding barns that aren't served by water service connection.
And those are probably more of where we're at. I get where you are as far as with the wastewaters and the and all that stuff. We're probably even more in that narrow area as far as to the wedding barns, the simple farm stand, the simple, we're going to play music here on a Friday night. We're going to do that 7 weekends out of the year or 7 nights out of the year. That's where we're at, other than doing the full-fledged Act 250 review on that building that has to go there. We're not even at the level of where you started at, which is great to hear, the flexibility that you've included, but we're even narrower than that. We're just on these small little things that make a heck of a difference. And I think it's helpful for us to be able to explain that to folks that say, no, we're not trying to get into your business over there. We understand that, and it's way above us. It's the flexibility of having somebody come out there and really say, you know what, you're really not trying to do too much here. Let's figure that carve out for them.
So my second point, it's a good segue. The second point is related to our indirect discharge program. So that's the part of that program, large capacity septic on one side, on the other side, the land application of non-sewage waste. There may be the need, and it would be beneficial to the program. I don't have a specific proposal for you today.
Yeah.
But to look at ideas for creating a category that we would consider quote de minimis for the land application of non-sewage waste, really for beneficial use. Think of a small example that was given to this morning, small gin maker. They want to comply with Vermont's regulations. They don't have a lot of non-sewage waste, but the washing of the equipment or the byproduct, and there's a beneficial use. for it. So maybe encapsulating some of that because there is no de minimis. And technically land appliers of that non-sewage waste require permits. So that's the other concept that comes to mind when in an open offer, that we could work with the Agency of Agriculture to look at that a little bit closer. I don't know if that's a this year thing or a
We get
next year
that
thing.
too. Yeah, we do get that thing. We would just like to see some movement on that. And to, again,
Washing on vegetables, right? That was gonna be de minimis, but,
Well, there's just a few, and I'm not making light of what, there's just a few kind of anomalies that we see. And again, this is almost even greater than what I'm even talking about. I'm talking about even less than that, but if we're talking about washing vegetables, we just knew that we weren't gonna be able to take this on, but you could wash them outside. But then as soon as you brought them in undercover, it was going to, a whole different permit being made. To be able to have somebody go there and say, we're talking 10 feet, the water is gonna run in the same area. That's what it's gonna be. I know that's a little bit more tougher. I do know that that's a little bit more tougher, but just to have somebody go out there and say, I don't really see much difference here. Yeah, we're gonna get you under this little special permit at this point in time, but we are going to re-inspect you again next year to make sure that you haven't got greater than what it is, because out of sight, out of mind. And as soon as we're gone, doesn't mean that all of a sudden it comes into a full-fledged business not intended for what you had told us to do. So only adding more work to you, and I guess that's what legislators are really great at, right? Let's just add more work. But even I think even the overall of it, Brian, is even less than even that. It's like, okay, 7 weeks out of the year on a Friday night, we're gonna play some music on that little piece of wood right there. And then all the other of it, we may store some hay in there. We made it look like a hay barn because I don't even want him to do that. I don't even want him to throw a bale of hay on there to try to make it look like to you guys that, well, they are just some reasonableness of people communicating together. Without having gone through a whole Act 250 review, where if they played on the ground and played that music, there would be nothing said about anything. But let's get them on that platform. So like that, and there's a lot of other different little things, a little farm stand or stuff like that. That isn't going to use wastewater. It isn't going to use anything. Isn't a year-round use. Just that's as simple as what we're looking for. Not at where some people are saying, because I do get, well, if we do it then more people are going to want, and then this is going to get a lot bigger than what we're prepared to do. But maybe a special permit or a special understanding that, no, this is all you're going to do. Don't make us come back here and find that you've done more, because then here's what's going to happen. So we're not even looking probably at the level of what we spoke about. So,
Very close. Can I ask you a question?
yes.
So some of this feels like there's a nexus here with business planning. And I know that there's business planning work to help farmers that are considering some of these on-farm businesses, both through VHCB
Yeah.
and through the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund.
Yeah.
Are the types of concerns you're raising people who are engaging with VHCB or the Jobs Fund, or are these folks sort of with a kernel of an idea that they're working towards? Because one idea would be also, in addition to partnering with the ag agency, could be for us to talk to like the farm and forest viability team at VHCB or the business planners at the Jobs Fund and see if there's a way to kind of collect ideas for some of these de minimis activities you're describing. And Brian had that one example of a de minimis activity, but to try to build a better list that we could then
I
work
think
from.
almost like a stakeholders group, like not even, a stakeholders group of getting some people together who have run into this, and where the town doesn't have a problem with it. Nobody has a problem with it, but then it comes to A&R and it gives you guys a black eye because you're coming in and this is the rules that you have. And then, I get it, but sometimes let's change the rule just a little bit. So yeah, a stakeholder group. What I don't want to do, and it's funny because we just had kind of this conversation with PAX on current use. They were just in before you. What I don't want to do is I do not want to make a carve out I don't want to make it so that we're just trying to really change all what you do. Make a subcategory of some point, but yeah, I do think that a larger discussion, bringing in some stakeholders. But listen, please understand, this is all we're trying to do. We're not trying to bend the rules. We're not trying to break the rules. We're not trying to get ahead of anybody. Over and over and over, it just seems to come back to farm to table stuff. Okay, we're following all the other rules that you guys have put out there. We are 50% of what we're selling is coming from the farm. We're not selling more than $250 worth of product adjusted for inflation coming from outside the group. But this is all we're trying to insert into that right there. But it's going to require an Act 250 review of all that we're trying to do, and so yeah, almost a subcategory of where it is. But I do think a stakeholders group would be very, very helpful, and to make sure, and maybe you guys are prepared to go even further what I'm talking about. Maybe it is. And a stakeholders group, I think, would be very valuable with that.
Thank you.
May I, in this case, the event that we're talking about is over where? Barner. And it started small, correct? It started small and like anything, it kept growing and growing. That it's finally brought attention to itself.
Yeah.
And so now basically is that you got more public coming to it. That draws your attention.
Well, I think,
And then when it draws their attention, now it's just, do you have proper outhouses? Do you have, a few basic things? And if you get any bigger, then we may have.
which to be honest with you, they should have proper outhouses.
Yeah.
They should have porta potties in there. They should be able to have that.
Yeah.
But but the fact that they have a building that they have abandoned that can store hay or whatever triggers an Act 250 review for that evening. But no, they should have all of that. Do you know what we're talking about? So we're talking about an event in Senator Major's area where they are having events where they are feeding folks. They're having an event that's approved by the town. Town loves it. They're feeding what they're raising, a collection of farms are feeding what they're raising. So they're having an on-farm dinner, and they decided they wanted to have a little bit of music. So they built a little stage, and wink, wink, wink. Well, it can store hay too. And they built a little simple stage with no services to it other than electric cord that runs out there. And they have the band on there. Well, that building has triggered an Act 250 review. And that's as simple as, so let's shut the event down. And again, we're not trying to get past that. No, if you have got people there, we don't want people, causing waste off. No, you've got to have what you need to have, but let's be reasonable about what we're really trying to do. And should that be an Act 250 review? So I do think to flesh all of this out, that a stakeholder group would be very, very important. And so that you folks can get a better understanding. And we could talk about a lot of other scenarios about, and maybe it would be time for, because of it's a changing landscape, the farmers are doing a lot of things different. They're trying to diverse. Maybe there needs to be another set of rules that we need to make up, other than these big, strong, stringent rules that we have that are governing a lot more bigger things that these are getting caught up into. So,
Well, I think we could look at the areas of intersection that these on-farm events have with our existing regulatory programs. Most of them are in Brian's shop, right? It's around
right.
making sure folks have safe drinking water and
Right.
good wastewater disposal practices. Whether that's through portalets or through a septic system or even some land-based application. But I think what we could come back with is a list of sort of where those thresholds either exist.
Yeah.
That and de minimis quantities and or places where we don't currently have a de minimis standard that could be helpful to these enterprises.
Yep.
And start the conversation here. And I know Act 250 is its own
Yeah.
sort of universe of stuff. And we intersect with Act 250, but obviously don't fully control the decisions that get made there, but could come back with a set of proposals in our space about what those triggers and thresholds would be.
I can almost guarantee you this is very dangerous. If we had that type of discussion, you would probably never hear from this committee again about that ever again. That's how minimal we're looking to try to do that. But I get it scares everybody else because it's such a broad rule and they're just trying to get it, they're trying to put the bus ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to do that.
Well, and that's why I think if we also then the other maybe hand in glove component is to try to integrate it into some of those business planning services that are
Yeah.
being offered elsewhere. So that folks recognize if and as they grow, and there will come a point where they won't qualify for these exemptions, right? They would actually have to implement a full blown system. Our challenge, and Brian alluded to this, is a lot of times folks sort of grow incrementally over time and then suddenly find themselves in a place where they need a fairly significant investment that they hadn't anticipated because they were permitted for something much smaller and they outgrew whatever that system was that they'd been permitted.
Well, yeah, Senator Heffernan touched on that a little bit as well, is that, sometimes that the weight of your successes actually put you into something different.
Correct.
And we understand that as well. And so, those are the things that people need to be worried about. Well, how big do we want to make this thing? Because do we really want to go to that next step? No, we do not. We need to stay in our lane. That's what we need to do. So, yeah, yes, sir.
So if I could offer my viewpoint on all of this, it seems that there's a theme here. And Senator Heffernan used the term customer service. I think we also have bedside manner spoken about in here. And LFOs are yearly inspected, MFOs every 5 years, and then a certified small every 7. We did hear testimony from, I believe it was an LFO, that the day before his annual inspection, he couldn't sleep, he was sweating, it's reached that level with some folks. I've known Secretary Moore probably over a decade. I think you should have training done by you about this whole topic, customer service. If you show up at a farm and, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Farmer, I'm here. I know this is the old phrase, from the government, I'm here to help. But if it's the way that it's presented,
Yeah.
I didn't make the law, but I'm charged with making it
Yeah.
compliant here. What can I do to help?
And we are actively working with our team to improve customer service. I think if you asked a lot of our staff who their customers are, they would probably tell you Vermont's natural resources as opposed to Vermonters, right? And so it's very well intentioned how they engage, but we have to put the people first in order to protect the resources we're charged with stewarding. And Misty has been really good in that space too, being responsive to people returning phone calls and emails. We've started to lay out a set of our expectations for our teams in terms of how quickly they should get back to somebody, even if it's just to say, I need a little more time to dig into this, but make that initial contact. As Misty said, we know that there's room for improvement in that space. We try to lead by example by being responsive ourselves. I think our division directors do a great job too. And a lot of it is just, there's a lot of incoming on every given day and trying to help staff understand that you don't have to have the full answer. You can triage a response. And we have some folks that are really exceptional at it and try to also raise them up when they do a good job. There's one member in particular of Brian's team, Bruce Douglas, that I just think is exemplary in his customer service. And so as he does that, try to showcase what he's doing with the hope it serves as a model for others.
I meant that as a compliment to you.
I appreciate that very much.
But Misty and Brian have done a great job with presentations here
Yeah,
for the first time today. I'm just saying the manner in which
I agree.
it's delivered
Yes.
is
Yeah.
so important.
And if I may go on a little defense for the program that I represent, we're getting lumped a little bit here, but our wastewater and potable water supply permitting program, the WW permits, 3,000 permits came among 7 staff. This permitting program issues more permits than DEC issues controlled from all of its other programs. Very high volume. 7 staff members, 2 working supervisors. The math is brutal. The old adage, time, money, quality, pick 2. We're picking 1, and it's time. And so we're on average getting those out around 20 days.
And
And
that's on sewer systems.
this is on septic systems and connections to.
Well, I can
municipal
tell you
water.
this, I'm in that business in real estate. I don't hear much about that. I don't hear
It's working.
it. Yes. It's better than working. It's working well. For all that you're doing. I think it's some of the regulatory stuff that, people are feeling real angst about.
And most of the stuff that you could, they are licensed professionals or engineers sending in, so that it shouldn't take that long. That could be a whole different story you and I can have about that.
Using Deborah
But,
today. Yes.
Wrong committee. But yeah, you're doing a good job, but you're getting designers that are sending in that went to school for it, and really everything that comes across your desk should. It's good. Yeah, it does vary at times. You've got your good ones and bad ones, just like in any business.
And what I will say, just to kind of add to that, is one of the initiatives that, Brian's team is kind of are the ones that we hold up as an example of, timely response getting back. And it a lot of the times comes at like the expense of getting the work done, because you're working with folks to have that and to make sure that that customer service is there, that we're serving the public. The Vermont Environmental Permit Assistance Center, VPAC, is something that Brian is part of, kind of a steering committee, and we have some folks working on. It's kind of a newer initiative that we at DEC are working on. That is very much human-centered customer service focused to really stand up. We went from having permit specialists or they're humans that walked people through what they needed to do, got them into the system, and then turned them over to the technical experts that then processed. We then went to an electronic permit navigator, an online tool for many different reasons. We are moving away from that. And so we are actually now saying, okay, we actually need the human-centered with the IT or that technical piece of it, and it's really a front door model. So we're working on, you have something that you're working on, insert XYZ as scope, you don't even know where to begin. Well, I'm going to come to these group of folks at DEC that are going to help me. They're going to take a look at what I have, be able to tell me potentially what permits I need, not just say, now go forth, good luck and apply, but actually walk them through, here's what you will need for that application. Let me help you gather those, have those meetings ahead of time so that you understand what the process is, that kind of break down those silos, but really be human-centered. And a big part of, Brian, we all have these conversations often, is also getting out in the communities, so that when folks say, I know that I'm going to need something, but I don't know what I need, I know DEC will have to be involved in some way. Oh, but wait, there are folks at DEC that could potentially answer those questions for me. So we hear it, we understand that. We also understand that our folks, when Brian talks about the number of permits that, you do have to pick to time, customer service. Like, there are things that in the big world we live in that sometimes falter. And we want to give the space to our teams to be able to have the technical expertise, do what they need to do by providing some of that front end service that will improve externally, working with folks, Vermonters, and provide that customer service, but also give our folks internally the space that they need to be able to do the jobs that they do. So we hear it, and we look forward to engaging what recommendations you could potentially have for that as well. So I put that out there.
The only thing I would add to that is, feedback is also part of that engine, and something relevant to what we're hearing today is about the cultural shift around customer service. And I very much see that as part of the foundation to help make that shift that Secretary Gorsuch could have.
And she's so personable. If she came to my farm, I'd enjoy it.
Depends on what she's coming for.
Well, she could make me enjoy it.
Thank you.
You better. What else, committee? Anything from you folks to us?
No, just appreciate your interest and your engagement. It's always helpful for us to hear what you're hearing from your constituents. I know that one of the other pieces is just trying to make ourselves accessible and less scary, so people feel like they can reach out and share concerns. We have a lot of good problem solvers at the agency, but we can't solve the problems we don't hear about. And so I think at times there is this discomfort because we are a regulatory agency. People don't want to reach out and share what they're stuck on because they feel like that's going to bring in exactly an enforcement response as opposed to some technical assistance, and just anything you can do to help message to your constituents that coming to us early, we welcome the opportunity to provide that kind of technical assistance because it saves all of us time on the back end. Is really helpful, and we'll give some more thought on sort of how we could frame out a set of kind of de minimis exemptions that could be shared out around on-farm accessory businesses. Some of them, I think, as Brian indicated, exist, and we could just articulate them. Some of them may not exist, and that could be a set of requests to come back to
how
you.
little we're asking.
Yeah.
How little we're asking. We're really not asking for a whole bunch. We're not asking to, I'll leave it at that. We're not asking for a lot. So, but
We're happy to work on that.
well, we're happy that you came in. We appreciate it very much. We're here to serve. If there's anything that you need, legislation that needs to happen, especially after this report that you get back, if there's anything that we need to get ahead of, please let us know, like you always have. We're very appreciative. Appreciate the working relationship. You guys are always approachable, and we thank you very much.
Just don't ask for any more.
Well, and the stakeholder report should come in at the end of the month. And so I recognizing morning committees tend to wind down as May approaches.
Well, we'd be interested.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We really would. We'd have a lot of farmers who are, we'd be interested in hearing that.
So we'll keep you apprised. We had said we would deliver it in April, and I believe we remain on track to do that. So we'll let you know as soon as it's getting close in case you want to hold time on your calendar.
Okay, sounds good.
Come in
Well,
whenever.
Linda's the boss.
I understand that.
So do we.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Appreciate taking the time. It's very much appreciated. Committee, anything else that you want to discuss?